Ministry. We're going to dismiss for New Beginnings Kids. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Doing good? Man, I felt the Holy Spirit here this morning already in those songs and the words that we sing, and seeing those kids up here really meant the world to me. You may notice I have glasses on it. You know, when I come up and stand in front of everybody knows every little thing. All right. Yeah, I got glasses on today. I had an eye thing this week, but I'm doing good. But I couldn't wear my contacts. But can you bring the lights up just a little bit, Rodney? I can't see him. Are y'all out there? Oh, there you are. There you are. I can't see a thing without them, though. So you do not want me up here falling all over myself with no help. I'm excited this morning. I really didn't plan on spending this much time on this part of the chapter, and we've kind of gone into a little mini-series here within the larger series of Ephesians called A New Way of Life. And this morning I planned on doing 2-3 verses again, and the more I studied, I said there's too much in one verse that I want to hit on for us to get to 3 this morning. So you're just going to have to bear with me. I'm going to follow where God guides and leads here. And I've got 29 through 31 up there, but we're only going to look at 29 this morning. We're going to only look at 29. Have y'all ever had a moment that you'd like to just have back? Like there's a moment you can think too, and I had one of those this week, and I thought, well, when this happened, I got to share this. This is up Monday. We were out driving around. We didn't really have any Memorial Day plans. We just kind of got up and let the day happen, which was kind of fun sometimes. And so we got out and was driving around. It was late afternoon. We ended up south of Pikeville. I thought, we'll run in Food City up at Shelbyana. We rarely ever go up there. We live on the other side of town. And so Roz ran in with me. We grabbed some groceries. And I came out, and this is a very kind of unsuspecting picture. I don't know. Do you see anything there that everybody's thinking, where is this story going? What is that picture? But let me tell you, I've had nightmares about that picture this week. So we were coming out, at Food City, they have these short shopping carts, and then they have the longer ones. We didn't need much, so I grabbed one of those short ones. I came out. You can't see our van. It's parked 2 or 3 spots up there. And we were coming out, cart full of groceries. Roz was with me. And I got to about right here where I took the picture, and I saw Beth back behind this red truck. She had the van door open, and she was looking at me, so I stopped, and she was saying something, joking. I had Roz with me. You know, y'all may think I'm like this super serious guy. I'm not. And so I started kind of goofing off a little bit and thought I'm going to run to the car with the cart. You know, Roz just having some fun. And if you look a little closer, that little trench in the pavement there, that truck was not there at the time when this happened. I was going in between that yellow pole, a little shortcut, with a short cart. And so, I got the bruises to show it. The front wheels of the cart, y'all know where this is going, right? I'm kind of pushing quick. I'm running with it, and the front wheels of the cart go down in that little trench where they'd ran some conduit or something, some power. And this is happening so fast. And I just feel the cart stop, and I don't. And it starts flipping over, and I was kind of leaning on it, kind of goofing off a little bit. And I felt it start to go, and I thought, where am I going to go? And I tried to get off to the side, and my arm got stuck down between and it flipped me. Picked me up by the arm, and Beth is sitting there in the van just watching. It flipped me over, and there was a water hole there, So this happens in like 2 seconds. And when I come to a stop, I mean, my arm, I thought it was broke. I was laying there in a water hole with bread and cereal and a watermelon in the middle of the parking lot. And everybody, there was people out there. I mean, I could just feel that people were staring. I mean, I would have been staring hard. I mean, so here I am, a muddy mess, groceries everywhere, and I'm thinking my arm's broke. And so Rosie, she said, "Dad, are you okay?" And I was just trying to get to myself. I didn't even know what had happened. I was like, what just happened? I think I just made a fool of myself. And so you immediately start looking, did anybody see that? And yep, everybody. And as I look at them, they were staring at me like, is he going to get up? Not running to see if I was going to get up. They were standing like 30 feet away. And so when I look at them, they'd look away and act like they didn't see it, like we all do. And so I went around, there were people pumping gas, getting the groceries in, just completely ignored. They pretended like nothing happened, which I was kind of thankful for. And so I destroyed a couple things. I took them back in and told the manager, I said, "Hey, I just almost died out in your parking lot. I just want you to know that." And I showed him my arm. And I tried to get the video. I know they have it on video. I think he thought I was going to try to sue him or something. He wouldn't show it to me. I wasn't going to do that. I just wanted to put it on Facebook or YouTube or something and try to make it, try to retire, because I know it would do it. But Roz, when we were back in, she said, "Did you hurt anything?" I said, "Mostly my pride." And she said, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, it was real embarrassing. That was real embarrassing." And I was thinking, man, that moment, I would love to have that moment back. The moment I decided to go on that side of the pole. And this morning's scripture's about words. Now let me ask you this. Are there words in your life you'd like to have back? Like if I could do it, I'd go back and I wish I'd have never said that. Some of you are thinking a certain situation, certain time in your life. This is how important this lesson is this morning. Because we're going to talk about watch your mouth. And I titled it this and found a cool slide online for it. But the more I thought about it, in today's time, how do most of us, many of us, we have conversations and communicate less with our mouth and more with our what? Thumbs, phones, emails, text. So what I'm going to say is watch your words, watch your conversation. That's what we're going to talk about this morning. Because you will say, you have said things you wish you could get back. I wish I could take that back, and you can't. There's an old adage that says there's 3 things that never come back: a fired arrow, a spoken word, and a lost opportunity. But a spoken word you can never get back. I used to work at the Chamber of Commerce, and I remember we'd send out our newsletter, our emails, and we'd send it to a couple thousand people. Now we send emails to like 5,000 and 6,000 people where I work now on our mailing list. And every time we start to send that out, I get nervous. Because the guy I used to work with, we'd hit send and he'd start going, trying to catch it, like, oh God, was there a mistake in it? Did we say something wrong? It's kind of scary. It happened to Beth one time. I didn't tell her I was going to share this. She taught school for 4 years. The president of the Kentucky Teachers Union, KE, I don't know which one it was, sent out this email, and there's legislation getting ready to get changed. They were going to reduce the classroom time each year by 1 day. That was some legislation that coming up, 1 less school day. Beth forwarded the email on to me, and she doesn't teach anymore. She loved teaching. She's an amazing teacher, but she didn't feel called to it in that place. And so it was in that moment in her mind, and she forwarded that to me and said, "This sounds great." And so the teachers union was saying, "This is not fair. We need more instructional time for our students." So Beth forwards it to me and says, "Actually, this would be great. I'd love to have an extra day in the summer." Except she didn't hit forward. She hit reply to the director of the statewide union and said, "I'd love this." And so she got a great little treatise back about how important instructional time was. And all that good stuff. What I'm trying to say is you're going to say words, you're going to send a text, you're going to send a Snapchat, you're going to post something on Facebook, which you can delete, but somebody has screenshotted it by the time you deleted it and people see it. You're going to put things out there that you can't get back. Now, this is a lesson from 2,000 years ago that is so applicable today, it just blows my mind. Because here's the scripture. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29, just a reminder, we're here and Paul talking to the church, talking to Christians, instructing them on several different categories and things in their life that they need, how they should behave, what the new way of life should look like. And so you can just take that and say, well, whatever he's saying here, that's the opposite of that would be the old way of life. And so if someone's not a Christian, you would expect them to act in the old way of life, and just trying to act like in these new way of life items isn't how you become a Christian. So let's look at this. So far we've done 2 parts on this new way of life. The first one, we looked at anger, and we looked at honesty or lying. Then the third thing we've looked at is work, the last sermon in this series. We looked at how we should approach work in this new way of life. This morning we're talking about words, our conversation, because he says this in verse 29, chapter 4. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Give some great guidance here on conversation. You all like conversation? You all like talking to new people? No? Yes? No? Who loves meeting new people and just starting a conversation? Who says, I would rather do anything than have to start up a conversation with somebody new? There's people here that just feel uncomfortable walking up to somebody new and starting a conversation. Yeah, I don't love parties or get-togethers and networking events. Like, I always feel so awkward. I'm really an introvert that tries to act like an extrovert, so it's draining for me. It's draining for me, so I don't like working the room and talking to people. But this is really a guide on conversation. This is a guide on how we should talk with one another, within our family, with our friends, with coworkers, with people we meet at the grocery store that fall and almost die. And you should talk to those people. And this is how we should do it. A couple quick points on conversation in general, because this would have been really easy to jump in and say, well, let's find every verse in the Bible that talks about our words and our mouth and how we should control it. And I got some references, but that's like a 5-sermon series in and of itself. So I want to focus on this text, but I want to give you a kind of a brief overview. First thing I want to say is your conversation, the words that come out of your mouth and thumbs and every other way you get communication out, is a live stream of your heart. It is a live stream of our heart. The Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. While we're going to talk about some very practical things of how to improve our conversation and what's right and what's wrong, I want to start with this mindset that it starts in the heart. That not only does your conversation outpour of what's in your heart and inside of you, but your conversation can penetrate the mind and the hearts of those that are listening to you. Does that make sense? This is critically important to understand that what is in your heart is going to come out, and whatever you say, you may just be saying stuff. And this happens a lot. We just start talking, talking without thinking, which the Bible says is not a good thing. When somebody said, that person just talks until they have something to say. You ever met somebody like that? They just talk until they have something to say. Like, they could talk for 10 minutes, and you're like, I don't even know why I didn't get anything out of that. I have no idea why they just said all that. But it has the potential, one, it shows your heart, and second, it's going to affect, impact, influence those that are listening to whatever you're saying, whatever you're posting, whatever you're sending, whatever you're doing is going to penetrate the hearts and minds of the listener. So let's start with saying, I'm not going to be preaching to you about doing better specifically about your conversation. This requires a heart change. I did not have to teach our 9-year-old daughter how to lie, how to talk back, how to be angry, how to be mean, how to refuse to share with other people. I didn't have to teach her how to be selfish. I didn't teach her how to raise her voice when she got frustrated. Did you all have to teach your kids any of that? That's the old self. We come by that natural. You don't change it necessarily by just trying to do better. It requires a heart change and instruction. So let's look at it. The first thing in this verse, we're going to look at 3 things about conversation, and then we're going to look at really 2 duties we have as it relates to it. First, let's just look at that first part of the verse. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. Unwholesome. Don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. So first point of our conversation, based on this verse, is the words that come out should be wholesome. Pretty simple. So what is unwholesome? And I just kind of dug through some verses and different places in the Bible that said this is the things you should not do with your words. One of those was gossiping. Beth's grandmother, Lorraine, we were at her house. Like y'all thought I was going to call her out and say she was a gossiper, didn't you? We were at her house last night. She said, I can't wait till this message. She said, I know you're going to talk about gossiping. I got to get my phone under control. Basically what she said. She was joking. But it is true. The Bible's very clear that gossiping is just, and I don't know how many times I've said this since we started the church, but if you're saying something to somebody, if you're saying something negative about somebody to somebody who can't do anything about it, then that's gossip. That's the easiest way I can define it. If you're talking about something bad about somebody to somebody who can't do anything about it, as Christians, we are called, if we see somebody struggling, going through something hard, to not call our neighbor and tell them about it, but call the person. Say, hey, I see you're stumbling. And I'm not here to criticize you. I'm here to love you and say, I know you're stumbling. I just want to point that out to you in a very loving way and pray for you and help you. Boy, that's not our first step, though, is it? It's so hard. But we find gossiping. We find complaining and negativity. I preached a whole sermon on complaining once, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. But the Bible teaches very clearly to do what we do without complaining. But boy, it's so easy to complain about anything and everything. Speaking evil, it says to never speak evil of our brother. Bullying, meanness, making fun. Obscenity, foolish talk. If you go over into Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 4, I think I've got it up here. It says, nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving. No obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking. Now, everybody's thinking, there's no biblical list of, y'all say curse or cuss words, curse words, whatever you call it. There's no biblical list. You say, what's the wrong? We got words we don't allow Roz to say that we probably might say sometimes, right? There's no list. There's no list of what's right or wrong. But more than likely, if you're having to ask yourself, should I be saying this word? It's probably something you shouldn't say. Now, this is teaching us to clean our language up, that it should be wholesome. Here, this is really talking about, if you go back a verse in chapter 5, and we're going to get to it and spend some time there, it's really talking about sexual immorality. And it's talking about how even the conversation that sometimes revolves around that, the jokes, the innuendos, the things that happen are not wholesome. Actually, Paul goes so far as to lump them into the same sin as an affair. If you're having conversation with somebody of the opposite sex that is just not wholesome, y'all know what I'm talking about. It's not good, and it's not right, and it's sin. And Paul is teaching them to clean up their conversation. And I'm going to get you in just a minute to tell you why this is critically important. So, no gossiping, no complaining, no negativity, no bullying, no meanness, no making fun. Y'all ever been made fun of? There are people that go their whole life, and one thing somebody said to them when they were a freshman in high school haunts them still today. That's the truth. I shared with y'all one time when I was a freshman, I got a new haircut, walked into the school. They said, I didn't see a tornado this morning. I tell you, these words, your words, have great and lasting impact, and we're going to see that in a minute. That here Paul is teaching us to use wholesome words in our conversation. You can use your words to lie. You can use your words to slander someone, to talk bad about someone that's not true, share it with other people. You can use your words for destruction. Here, Paul calls us out of that habit. Says, hey, you got a new way of life now. Your words should be wholesome. So what's wholesome? Here's what I love about it. Here's what I love. So the first thing is it should be wholesome. The second part of the verse says, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. Second thing about our conversation, it should be targeted. I didn't see this when I first read through it, but the more I prayed about it, was studying, I saw, wait, there's something in here at the last of that little section that says, according to their needs. Like this conversation, it should be wholesome. It should be full of good words, not bad words. Let me put a list of bad words up on the screen, and I'm just kidding. I don't have that slide in here. It should be good words. And then it says it should be what is helpful for being others according to their needs. It should be targeted. What does that mean? That means when we're talking to somebody, we should have an interest in that somebody. We should, the first thing I thought about was we should have some understanding of who they are, where they are in life, what they've been through in life, what their current situation is. How do you find those things out? By listening. You see how this conversation is getting ready to change? He's saying, yeah, this should be wholesome words, but you should understand who you're talking to. And you can't understand who you're talking to if all you care is about yourself. And that's usually when we start talking, that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about ourselves, what we did, what I did. I've intentionally started trying to just focus on the other person. Instead of me like coming in thinking about my crazy week, my bad thing I had this week. I'm trying my best to, when I see somebody say, how was your week? I know what you've been through this week. I went by last night, saw Les, one of our faithful members here for a long time, had open heart surgery this week. He's 84 years old. Boy, he's doing great though. He was back in a regular room, and cutting jokes. He was just having a big old time. He'll be probably walking this week. I don't know. He is moving quick. But I knew the situation he had been through. I was there for him, not for me. Then I went and saw Doris, another faithful member for a long time, that fell this week, broke her hip, had hip surgery replacement that same night, and she also broke her rib and her tailbone. That's not fun. She's in her 80s, I'm guessing. She was on her way to eat lunch with Belle, and just a moment she'd love to have back, I imagine. And we sat there and talked for just some time about, I shared with her my shopping cart flip. I said, I could have been in the bed right beside you. This was close this week. And she got a good kick out of that. But when you're talking to somebody, you got to care about the person, the needs of the other person. And not only do you have to think about it, you got to be thinking about, what's it say? Building them up. I want you're going to see a theme by the time we get to the end of this three-part series. That a distinct difference between conversation in the new life and the old life is that it's no longer about us. That conversation is no longer about us and what we need and what we feel and what we think and what we want. But it is thinking intentionally about people who need built up and then using wholesome words to do it. So in marketing, we think about a target market, and you think about who those people are and what they like to do and what their behaviors are. This type of conversation, I just thought, God's telling us here we should understand the people that we're talking to. We should have a hunger to understand where they're coming from, what they've been through. Take that into consideration as we're talking to them. You can't say the same thing to every person. I guess is where I'm trying to get. So it should be targeted. Here's the cool thing. Paul is not just saying, I grew up my whole life, watching the Christmas Story and getting your mouth washed out with soap. Y'all seen that, right? Don't say bad words. You don't say bad words, right? And some of you don't. Some kids don't. Hey, I've heard kids drop, woo. And the parents just laughing and, having a big time out of it. And I'm like, oh my God. Can he just say that? And like, yeah, it's cool, isn't it? I don't know. But he's not just saying no wholesome talk or no unwholesome talk. That's what I love about it. That's what I love about Jesus, what I love about our faith, is that they don't just call us to not do bad. He's calling us here to do good. He said, actually, it's not far enough just to be like on complete reserve and make sure this week I didn't say one bad word. It's actually more important to move to the next step and start pouring into other people wholesome words. He's calling us to intentionally do that. Find the people around you that are down and pour in them to build them up. So those can be encouraging. It could be reproof, like I said earlier, if somebody's stumbling. The greatest part of our conversations last night was prayer. Using your mouth to speak prayer over someone is powerful. Sincere compliments, there's lots of good things you can say. I'll say this, helpful words that are targeted are words like they're honest, they're thought out. I love this old quote, better to be silent and be thought an idiot than to speak up and remove any doubt. Helpful words are thought out. And they're gentle. Proverbs 25:15 says, a gentle tongue breaks a bone. Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. We're not just called to have wholesome talk. We're called to listen, and it's called to be targeted. The third thing at the end of this verse is that it may benefit those who listen. It's kind of the same as the other, but it should be beneficial. The conversation should be beneficial. Now, I don't want you to take this to the nth degree and say we can never be silly, we can never have fun, because there are times for that. I am the biggest cut up. If you spent some time, we would have some fun. But in general, our conversations amongst one another, it should, and sometimes laughter is beneficial, right? Sometimes it's good to get together and just smile and laugh and have some wholesome joking. But it says it should be beneficial. As I said earlier, some people talk until they have something to say. It's the wrong reason to talk. Proverbs 21:23 says, whoever guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from troubles. Some people talk because they love the sound of their voice. You've met them? They just love to hear themselves talk. I hate to hear myself talk. I go back and watch some of our YouTube videos. I'm like, oh God, I can't stand my voice. I can't stand to watch. I hardly ever watch them. And so I don't know why y'all keep coming back. Some people talk to build themselves up. You meet these people that they build themselves up by tearing you down. And you'll think, this is all about me. Why are they being so mean to me? Why are they saying these negative things about me? Or they're acting like they're better than me, or they're just sharing all these things you're just slowly going like this. You've met people like that, like you're feeling worse and worse about yourself. And you're thinking, this is all about me. Why are they beating me down? It's not about beating you down. It's about building themselves up. That's not beneficial. It's not beneficial to treat people that way. We should not be consumed with who we are, what we've done, and making sure people know about that. We should care about the people around us. We should care about the people this morning. Y'all had great food. Y'all eat good this morning. You had stuff to drink. People came and gave, showed up early, gave time. They served, they loved. But sometimes we come in and say, why ain't the coffee made? Right? We come and say, you didn't get the kind of biscuit out of my biscuit this morning. And it's about us. So it should be wholesome, should be targeted, it should be beneficial. Really, there's two duties I got out of this for our conversations and how we should approach them, and I'm getting ready to wrap up this morning. First one is watch our mouth, watch our words, watch our conversation, watch what we're saying. Think about it intentionally. Don't just let your mouth run free. It's a recipe for disaster. It's all through Proverbs. Think about what you're saying. Don't just let it run free. Watch your mouth. It should be wholesome, should be targeted, should be beneficial, the conversations you're having. And then I thought about this. Well, this isn't really directly in the text, but he's telling us that we should treat people this way, which tells us there's unwholesome talk all around us. And there's negativity and there's complaining all around us. And there are conversations, and you have friends and people and coworkers who have conversations that are not beneficial. And I think we're called in this to guard our ears, to do our best to remove ourselves from those conversations, not put that stuff. We should be pouring righteousness and good and wholesome stuff into us, and yet we get into situations with our buddies or with other people we know, and they're just unloading all these nasty jokes and talking about girls and boys and inappropriate ways, and the old way of life that was funny and it was fun, and then you realize that now, I'm talking from my perspective, I'm a man, and I have a wife, and I have kids. And if you're in high school and you're just graduating, or you're in college, someday you're going to have a wife, and you're going to have kids, and you're going to have a daughter, and you're going to have a son, and you're going to think about all the stuff you've said and done and think, God, there's words, there's moments I'd love to have back. We should watch our mouths, guard our ears. I'm going to read you this little news story here as we get ready to wrap up. Just a little bit of it. It's long. This is how it starts. The city belonged and bursting forth into the treetops. The blaze had jumped rivers and ridges, pierced fire breaks, outflanked firefighters on both sides, and outpaced officers delivering evacuation notices. Communities lay in darkness, lit only by the glow of burning homes and the oncoming fire. On the downtown streets, the wail of emergency sirens echoed. In the command center, the focus turned from protecting the city to prayer. I don't think I stopped praying for rain all night, Fire Chief Greg Miller said. It had become clear this was something only God could control. That's the introduction to an article about the terrible fires in Gatlinburg in Tennessee that happened a couple years ago. You can go on down, read through this story, and there's stories of daughters who got our last words from our parents that said, we're getting our pets and we're trying to get out, and they didn't make it to the end of the driveway. They've got recordings of the 911 calls of people calling in and saying, hey, the house beside me is on fire, my husband's not home, I got 2 kids here, I don't know what to do. And the 911 attendant says, stay with me, and the phone clicked. This fire in Gatlinburg, it took out 2,500 homes, burned, I think, 17,000 acres, killed 14 people. And guess how it started? 2 young kids playing with matches, basically. One little spark. Now I want to read to you what the Bible says in the book of James. It says, consider what a great force is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. What I want you to understand here is that with your words and with your tongue, you have great potential. Our conversations, we have great potential to do a lot of good. But the wrong conversations and the wrong words can set your life on fire. I mean, it can consume your family. It can consume your entire office where you work. It can leave destruction in its path through words, the wrong words. 3 things I want you to remember here. 1, Matthew 12:36-37 says, for every idle word men may speak, they will give account for it. Someday we're going to be judged on it. We're going to have to say, God, I used this tongue. Whew, messed it up, buddy. It was bad. I'm going to have to account for everything you said, everything you've texted. You think iTunes deletes it and you delete it. God don't delete it. I mean, I'm not pointing anybody out, but we've seen some things that are happening in Prestonsburg among a certain individual through Snapchat and all this stuff that is creating chaos. It is wrecking lives through words. We will give an account for it. 2, you got potential to impact. Little things have big impact. Unreckless, unguarded words, answers before listening. These destroy neighbors, they hurt feelings, they spoil character, they smear reputations, they destroy relationships. Think about the words you've said today, this morning, this week. Probably like to have a few of those back. I would too, because here's the beautiful thing. We should see every conversation as an opportunity. So we got an opportunity to impact people. We're going to be held accountable for what we say. The 3rd thing is, here's what I believe. I believe the kingdom of God, our church, our work to change people's lives starts in your all's conversations. Starts in your all's conversations. And how you talk to your coworkers and how you talk to your friends. The Bible says that the disciples, the ones that love Jesus, will know them by the way that they love. How do people know we love each other or love people? How do they know? By our conversations and our words and the way that we act and the way that we talk. But here's the beautiful thing. You may be saying, I'm going to go back to where I started. I'm not saying do better. You may be sitting here saying, God, I've wrecked this. I've messed this one up, my words. I got to try to do better this week. Here's the beautiful thing. It doesn't matter what you've ever said and what you've ever done. Jesus died on a cross. He died for us while we were yet sinners. I'm not pointing you to do better. I am showing you that you cannot do this on your own. You cannot say all the right things. You cannot be perfect. You cannot never complain. What I want you to see is you need Jesus. You need Jesus in your life. You need a relationship with him. I'm not saying do better. I'm saying go get Jesus, then pray with him and say, God, with your help, I'm going to do better. That's where I want you to be this morning. That's where I want us to stop this morning. I don't want you to leave today saying, I got to do better on this or I ain't going to make it to heaven. Because that's not how it works. You make it to heaven through your faith in Jesus Christ. And your faith in Jesus Christ brings renewal and makes you a new creature. It says the old becomes passed away and you become a new life, a new beginning. And in that new way of life, your conversation, your honesty. What do we say about honesty? Is it hurts the other person, or lying hurts the other person. Honesty is about the other person. We said anger. What do we say? No longer getting angry about what happened to me, but angry about injustice and what's happened to other people. It became about other people. What do we say about work? We don't work so we can get more stuff. We work because God called us to work and get enough so we can give it to other people. So what are our words about? Caring and being beneficial for other people. This is instruction on the new way of life. Paul's laying it out. It's not how to get to heaven. But if you're on your way to heaven, we better be having wholesome talk. And it better be targeted and it better be beneficial in our conversations. The tongue has the power of life and death. My question, what will we use it for this week? I'd invite everybody to stand this morning. We're just going to have this moment of reflection and an opportunity to respond. If you're saying, God, I need to pour some things out to you. If you're looking for mercy and your grace and you've seen these mistakes and these